we already asked you if we had any MLR news, and we do.
And we do. And I would like to introduce our guest today. Let's just bring him in.
Now, there
Hello,
was
Mariano.
There was rumors
Hi,
going
everyone.
around. Hey, Mariano. Rumors going around a few months ago. We'd seen a logo that had been sort of trademarked. We'd seen the name being trademarked. We'd seen some sneaky social media stuff. One of which proved to be it wasn't them, Charlie. I think that's somebody, Richard Collins, in the chat from YouTube was talking about the logo and color change. I think, Charlie, you established that wasn't really them, right? It was a false start on the Instagram, which Mariano Marco can tell us about. The CEO,
COO.
I think that's what I said. But COO.
No, you didn't. Yeah.
Listen, I'm a half a glass of wine in, Charlie. COO of the Miami Sharks, a new MLR team, which will start in 2024. Obviously, the 2023 season just started a couple of weeks ago, and Miami will be in it in 2024. Welcome, Mariano, to Talking Florida Rugby occasionally.
Thank you. Thanks so.
And thank you. It's a privilege for us to be covering this. This, I believe, is like the first public appearance that you guys make, and it's really a privilege for us to be able to do it.
It is for sure.
I think it's a nice way to celebrate your 50th episode and the 50 year for Tridents, right? Good stuff.
It is. So, Mariano, first of all, tell us a bit about yourself, rugby-wise, where you're from originally, your rugby history, and how you got involved with this project.
Well, I'm originally from Argentina. I played there. I started when I was 4 in Club San Cirano, where I grew up pretty much. I played until I got injured in my neck. I had a couple of other injuries, like all of us, knees, shoulders, but the neck was the one that sent me to university and focused on my law degree. Then I moved to the Caribbean. I played in BVI and the Cayman Islands, more relaxed rugby there, but quite competitive in the Cayman Islands. And then moving to Miami back in 2013, I originally joined the Key Biscayne Osotes, the oldies, and then I joined Okapi. I was part of the first men's division for Okapi, the first game that we played with a bunch of friends over there. Then Okapi was too far and traffic was starting to be really painful in Miami. So I moved to Miami Rugby, also with some friends. I still have friends in both clubs. And then I also coached and refereed eventually Key Biscayne, the under-19, under-16. So I was involved in the youth as well.
So a rugby man here in Florida for 10 years or so. And how did you get involved? Well, talk about the project. Obviously, back in, I think before the pandemic, 2019, there was rumors swirling around about a French ownership group that was looking at venues even before the pandemic. And obviously, once the pandemic hit, things kind of hit a brick wall for obvious reasons. And then, this sort of popped up within the last year. And talk about how you got involved with the Miami Sharks project and how long it's been going on for.
For me, it wasn't too long ago. I got an interview with the ownership group and the board members a little longer than a month and a half ago. So for me, it was quite recent. I wasn't involved in all the discussions and all the other conversations that happened. So for me, it was a pretty recent thing.
Okay. But do you know how long the project has been going? I assume they've been talking about it for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, I know there were different groups, and I know this group has been preparing this for 3-4 months already prior to the bidding process, but I was not part of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, what's the status of the club at the top now? We obviously have the owner, and then how many board members do we have at the moment?
So we have 7 board members. Have an ownership group represented by 3 individuals, all rugby people, all very passionate about the project and very much involved in the project. I have daily calls with some of the board members, me being the first man on the ground. There's a lot to do. So it's the 3 ownership group representatives and the 7 board members.
Are you the first quote employee? I know you said you don't actually officially start till mid-month, but are you the first actually employee of the Miami Sharks?
Yeah, and it's going to be 2 more, hopefully very soon.
Okay.
One rugby related and another front office related.
Good stuff. Well, yeah, looking forward to this. Obviously, the timeline, it might seem like it's a long way away, but I know a year is not a long time to get everything up and running. I know I've seen a venue being thrown around, but I know that's not finalized, and you guys are still looking elsewhere. So a lot of work still to be done, as you said, on the ground.
Yeah.
How much you can say about the venue selection? You don't have to get into specifics about the venue selection process, but what have you guys really been looking for in a venue? Location, not so much location, but maybe size and what you really want to. I know you mentioned in the pre-show of getting a Twickenham, getting a rugby specific stadium here down the road at some point. But for now, what have you been looking at for in regards to a venue's requirements?
We're not quite there yet. We're looking for venues. Of course, there are a lot of American football fields out there that we can seat 6,000-7,000 people easily. Right. But I think for us, the idea is to make the experience entertaining, not only for the rugby fans, but try to bring not necessarily the people that know rugby, right? So, and in order to do that, we need to make it a whole experience. We need to make it fun. We need to make it entertaining. We need to make it a family day where rugby happens. This is a team of Florida, right? We have to be very excited about it. I was very excited when I first heard, and now I can't believe that I'm working for the team. So this has to be very entertaining. Has to be an experience. It has to be fun. So that's what we're trying to do. And finding a venue that accommodates all that requires a challenge, right? It's a challenge.
For sure. Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you also, of course, I know this is something that is in the works, but if you can tell us a little bit sort of time-wise when, because this is, I've been getting some questions from people and a couple of things that many people are like very anxious is the coaching staff. When is that going to be selected, more or less? And how would the recruiting process, I have guys asking me for video highlights because they want to be ready, and so what is the message for our local players that are
that's very exciting to hear. That's what we're trying to generate, the local audience to be enthusiastic about it. Stay tuned because we're going to be announcing shortly a calendar of events. There's going to be a proper event where the franchise starts the works, right? Finding a venue is key, and we're working towards that. And then it's going to be camps and tryouts, probably after the first part of the year. So all our local players and not only locals, right, will be able to demonstrate their abilities, and not only for players, also for front office, right? We'll need to form a team on the field and off the field. So I really encourage people, our rugby fans and non-rugby fans, to be part of the Sharks. This is our team at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would obviously stay tuned to social media. I know the Sharks are just starting really to get into that on Twitter as well as Instagram. So stay tuned, follow them, follow the official. I know we've got a couple of fake ones out there. MIA Sharks Rugby. And I'm sure Charlie will also. Yeah, I'm sure Charlie will also.
And to thank you, our Founders Club sponsor Black Toro for that, who've been very supportive of us from the beginning, which is very positive.
Say the name again. What was
Black
the name?
Toro. Black Toro.
Black Toro.
Yeah.
Black Toro, as in black bull.
Black bull.
Correct. And there's an affinity there. The Bulls and the Sharks and.
Yeah, it's like we're in Super Rugby, Charlie. I don't know where I am. I'm in South Africa all of a sudden.
Exactly.
No, but great stuff. And Charlie, as we mentioned pre-show, I was involved a little bit with the Rugby ATL broadcasts in the first season of MLR before the pandemic hit. And an MLR roster is comprised of a good amount of full-time professionals, but then also part-time professionals, and also local amateur players with some aspirations to become pro that will be involved, especially at the training level. Because with the salary cap as it is in MLR, it's very difficult unless you're owned by a certain Australian. It's very difficult to stay under the salary cap and get 34 professionals in there. It's just not going to happen. I know Rugby OTL was made up of sort of 4 tiers. There was the full-time pros making the big money. There was the full-time pros, the younger guys making a little less money. There was the part-time pros, and then some of the local amateurs that were invited to practice and may end up making the game day squad as well. So it's more than just the full-time pros. There's definitely opportunities out there. It's very exciting. It's one of the more exciting things, especially for the youngsters. Potential of an academy as well. I'm sure that's been talked about, as it is with all the clubs in MLR. Talking about youth rugby, Mariano, how do you plan to get the youth involved? Because obviously that's going to be a key part of filling a stadium, is getting the kids involved, both on and off the field, with development programs, and getting into the game as well.
That's a vital part for us, not only as a Miami rugby person, but also as part of the MLR franchise here. It's a vital part for us to develop, and we're planning to put an academy in place so we can start trying to decrease the gap between the pros and the senior amateur players. That's part of what we're trying to do and trying to start this year.
Interesting. And I assume have you been in touch with other MLR clubs to see how they've managed to get things done?
Yeah, we did. And that's also part of what we are going to do this season that we're not playing.
Get out there and get around the country.
Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel. Try to replicate the things that some other teams are doing right. Try to redirect and do our own things on others. So exactly that.
With the Miami flavor, right? How much do you think this franchise could be? Because I sort of think it will be something a little bit different from others. What is your opinion on that?
I think the fact that all the ownership group and the board members and everybody that we've been in this project, we come from rugby. I'm from rugby on the Argentinian side of rugby, where it's for the clubs it's still amateur, right? Whereas the values, integrity, this passion, solidarity, discipline, respect, it's the fundamentals. I think trying to replicate that into this franchise is going to be vital. Is going to be the fundamental where we're going to build from. Of course, we're going to compete and we're going to have a competitive team and we're going to try to win the league the first year. But for us, the idea is, well, it's could be a bit optimistic, but that's the objective, right?
Why not?
Do it with the values, with the right values in place.
I'm gonna bring a question in from the crowd here, from Roy Monk, who's the president of our Florida Rugby Referees Association. It was kind of going to link into my other question. My next question was going to be about how you market to the non-rugby fans in Miami. I'm going to post this Roy question here. How you're looking to represent Florida, right, as the only MLR team. How are you planning to draw a supporter base from the entire state when you are based in Southeast Florida? Obviously, some people are 3 hours away, some people 5 hours away, some people might be closer even to Atlanta than they are to Miami. But have you talked about how you plan to draw those fans in from the center of the state, and also how to draw those local fans in who might not be rugby people?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the main point there is not to make just 80 minutes of pro rugby and then everybody go home, hopefully with a jersey or a cap, but try to make rugby happens in one place, from the kids playing to the amateur seniors, men division. So try to have a rugby day, the day that the Sharks play, and finish the day with your team playing pro against San Diego or against New York or against any other of the MLR teams, right? So if we make it fun, if we make it a family day where you can come in the morning watch your kid play and you stay for a beer or two, get a chorizo or choripan or something like that. It's going to be fun. It's going to worth traveling a couple of hours, spend the day, a rugby day, meet your players, encourage the fan base to have a collaborative approach with us. The idea is that we are not something unreachable, right? Try to make it, the collaboration with our fan base is going to be key. So I think that's the idea. Be close to our fan base, have the players training, doing clinics with the clubs, our coaching staff collaborate with the clubs as well, do clinics for the coaches of other clubs. We're talking about bringing international, well-known coaches, try to collaborate with the coaches of other of the amateur clubs here. So I think there are a lot of things we can do to be close to the clubs, be close to the rugby community, which at the end of the day is going to be our fan base. We're going to be supported by them, by us. When it was me a month ago, right?
Right. So do you expect to do some events, perhaps on the West Coast, up to Tampa, Orlando, to try and draw those guys in from, where it's a 4 or 5 hour trip? And are you looking at, you probably haven't got as far as games on Saturdays versus games on Sundays. I know some teams prefer to have some versus the other and maybe have a bit of both, but do you plan to have events around the state as well? I mean, obviously we look at Rugby ATL, right? They've had events down here. Obviously nobody from here is likely to go to Atlanta too often to go watch rugby, but they have really got their tentacles down here when it comes to recruiting. And I know they've got some players from Florida up to 404 over the years. So do you plan on doing some stuff around the state as well?
Yeah, at least campsite and tryouts for sure. The idea is that we get to know all the talent that we have in the state, which for sure it's not only in 305. It's pretty much spread out. So for sure we'll do something to connect with all the states. In terms of games, it is premature. I cannot tell you that yes or no.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is we're going to listen to what our fan base tells us. If there's something that we have to do, for sure we're going to do it.
Charlie, you want to post that next question from Hybrid and link into that? It's a good link.
No, speaking of the
fans.
Speaking of the fans. So what can we do as fans to be beneficial to the growth of the team, like sharing social media, 10 matches, etc.? I know he's going to be there, this guy, yes, for sure.
Only a couple hours away. Yeah, how can fans really help out, Mariano? I mean, I assume, share stuff on social media and just tell everybody you can, hey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was the same thing when we were trying to build a rugby club, right? It's bring your friend. It's bring your friend. And all of a sudden you have one friend on Thursday night and the following Tuesday you have two more. And it's exactly like that, right? We're trying to build it the same way. We're trying to build a club, not only a professional franchise. What we're trying to do is engage with the rugby community and bring more people to the rugby community.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're coming down from 2 hours away, you don't want to come on your own in a car. You got 3 other seats. Try and fill them up and bring people with you.
And we need to make sure that you guys have something to do beyond watching rugby, right? That you have a nice meal, that you have a good entertaining the place in the stadium or surrounding areas. You have a nice beer garden where you can have 1 or 2 and enjoy with your friends and your pro.
Just no cheerleaders, Mariano. I'm tired of cheerleaders in rugby. It started to sneak into the English. Tried to sneak into the English game before I left. I said, "Come on, I don't mind a bit of fire. We just don't need cheerleaders at rugby."
Cheerleader and mascot, right?
Mascot, I'm okay with if it's designed nicely. Right? Now, speaking of sharks, we got a lot of sharks in rugby. We have Sale Sharks. We obviously have Sharks. We've got also the Miami-Dade College Sharks, who are just around the corner. Over Southeastern Sharks, we need to come up with some kind of cool mascot that sort of differentiates all the different sharks involved around the rugby world and the South Florida world. Let me see what else I had on my questions here. Yeah, you mentioned full-time jobs and a team, Mariano. How many full-time employees do you expect this team to have? You don't have to get into specifics, but range perhaps in when would hiring start? Again, we said a year away, but that year is going to be that year is going to fly by.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
Yeah. So along this year, we're going to probably end up being 15 between coach and staff and front office.
Right.
Some teams, they have a GM, someone for sponsorships, tickets. We'll try to again not to reinvent the wheel, not to overpopulate the office, but try to do it right from the get-go, right? So we're going to have between probably 15 people.
And you said office. Did you expect to have a sort of central location at whichever venue you choose, or have you already sort of figured out where you guys, not to get into specifics again, but you will have an office somewhere?
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah. Where coach can do the videos. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do it in Brickell, okay? Because the traffic there is like impossible. Hey, listen, speaking of fans, I know you guys are promoting a little poll here as a way to just talk about
Let's
that.
Let's get into this, Charlie, because you and I both have opinions here. So does the Miami Sharks are giving their fans
a chance
to choose the jersey. Now, is this the home jersey, Mariano, or could two of these jerseys be in play? If I noticed the poll, two of the jerseys are streaking ahead of the other one.
Yeah, it could. It could be that two win and the third one goes for the closet. I don't know.
Let's take a look, Charlie. So number one is my favorite, sort of the faded hoops, which my team Wasps in England always used to play in hoops, so I sort of have an affinity for hoops, as I know Charlie does from his days with the other Miami team, which won't be too happy with that jersey he's wearing right now.
Listen, I just speaking of that quickly, I used to play for a team which was called Champagnat, that Mariano probably knows, of course.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much the only team I have seen ever to wear like a diagonal.
Oh. Like Peruvian soccer, like Peru soccer, could they have that?
No. Half the shirt was blue.
Oh, half and half.
White. Half and half.
Manuel Belgrano, that's it as well, right?
Oh, they do. I don't know. Yeah.
I think black, red, and blue.
So number two, which sort of reminds me a little bit of the Miami Heat colors. Was there any inspiration from some of the Miami Heat sort of city jerseys? They've kind of gone with this neon and pink a little bit over the last few years, and then the number three jersey with the black and the pink. I think number one and number three are leading in the polls that I've seen so far. But you can go to MIA Sharks Rugby on Instagram. I know it's also on Twitter as well right now. And you can vote for your favorite jersey. I'm definitely with number one, which I think is leading in both Twitter and Instagram polls right now. So I'm not trying to influence anything. But number one is my favorite at the moment. And perhaps number three is an away jersey.
If we play during the day, players will be very favorable for number one as well.
That's the other thing here. You got to be obviously the season starts in late February, but here we saw this past week's been plus 90 degrees, and having those white jerseys for the home games make the visiting team wear the dark shirt. I think that makes the most sense. We've got a couple of comments here from Mariano before he goes. Obviously, there will be some preseason games at some point. It's a little premature to think about that. I would assume January. I mean, do you have a sort of timeline of when you would like a squad to be settled, Mariano, and sort of by? Obviously, with preseason normally beginning in January or thereabouts. But obviously, Charlie and I have talked about this in the past. Visa issues is a big problem in MLR, especially even with the coaches. You guys have got to get going on this, especially with the international side of things.
Yeah, we do. So players is going to be the coach selection, right? We can
coach first.
Say I like this one or I like the other one, but the coach will decide who is on board and who's not. So the coach is first, and probably by I would say October, November, we should have a full roster. Everything will be announced in social media, the jersey, the events, the camps, and everything in between. We're going to be announcing with our fan base.
And how long is the voting going to go on for? I forgot to mention that for the shirts.
Well, the stories in Instagram last. I'm not a big social media user, but I think they last 24 hours, and then you can do it again and again. Okay. I think we're going to give it just 3-4 days,
3-4 days.
to see what's the repercussion is, and then we'll decide. It's and then we're going to announce the jersey who was the winner.
There's a good idea from Rob Mabry having I think we need to have more than one off weekend, Rob. I think once the MLR schedule is announced, then maybe we can set up the rest of the FRU schedule and just play it around those home games. Because how many games in a season, Charlie? I asked you about this the other day, and I couldn't remember how many games in an MLR season. Mariano, how many home games will you expect to have next season? So 8 home games,
at least.
So we can do that, Charlie.
So we will just have to cancel the Florida season, like entirely, and just watch MLR.
Some teams cancel their seasons for themselves, Charlie. So that's not a problem. I mean, Mariano, have you can be honest with me here. Have you spoken to potential coaching candidates? Have you opened that selection policy? You have. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That'll be key. Look, that's obviously the one thing I think I'm very excited about, because that's really the first when that coach is announced. Then you're like, okay, now we really have a team starting.
They're going to be shortly. When I say shortly, within the next month or so, some announcements. Very exciting announcements.
Nothing to break here, though, Mariano. Nothing to break here today. I understand.
Well, you have the jerseys and you have the logo.
I'm canceling that check I sent you. No, I'm kidding. No, the jersey. Listen, when Charlie said that we were doing the jerseys, that was awesome. And I said, it's going to.
Well, we can do another one in a month or so. So we can announce
every month.
Coach every month.
Listen, I like it. If you want to announce it on here, bring that coach on. That'd be super fun. Maybe
we have to do
our next episode.
We have to do it with a beer, right?
Oh yeah, I drank my wine already, but listen, only the beer that's sponsoring, only a beer that's sponsoring you guys, though. I'm not gonna.
I like that.
Drink any other beer.
I like that.
My last question for Mariano, which was a bit of a silly one, was if you could sign any player.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting.
If you could sign any player, I think I'm going to say within reason. I mean, I'm not, Dan Carter. We talked about that, but just jokingly. Is there any player? Who's your favorite player out there at the moment, Mariano, that you could say, hey, if I want to start a franchise, I'm bringing this guy in to start it?
3. You said 3.
Yeah, but that's Mariano. That's not the Sharks, right? Because I'm going to get myself into trouble saying this. No, if I was to do a fantasy game, like
let's do that. Fantasy Sharks.
Damian McKenzie, it's a player that I really admire since
D-Mac, yes,
he started. Yeah, Dupont, Antoine Dupont,
of course.
Yeah. Who else?
I think D-Mac's doable.
Finn Russell.
Man, what a player! When he's on his game, he has his moments where he forgets what he's doing. Or he tries to
quite disruptive.
Scottish 10. He plays like an Argentinian 10.
And from the past, maybe Carlos Spencer.
Ooh.
How old's Carlos Spencer now? He's surely got 8 games in him.
Yeah. He might be already out. I don't know. Juan Hernandez could be great as well.
He could play. Doesn't he live here? Isn't he living in Florida? Yeah. He's not?
No, I don't think so. No.
I don't know why I heard something like that.
I think he lives in Buenos Aires. That would be great, right?
That would be
beautiful.
I
think he's the best player I've ever seen live.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's up there for sure.
Mariano, I don't know if you want to answer this question, but which of those kits is your favorite, says Miami TVG?
I like the white one.
Okay.
Yeah. My wife likes the one in the middle. I don't see colors very well, so I can't even tell which color is it.
That's why you're not a ref.
I am.
You were?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
By being colorblind with being a ref.
Listen, you have a whistle. I got some games this weekend I need help with.
Yeah, that could be great.
Miami B, St. Thomas. Come on, let's go.
Let's go. That's good fun. My
Charlie, and then to finish off with Mariano here, this has been awesome. And a privilege, as Charlie said, to have you on our show as really the first face of Miami Sharks rugby out there for the rugby community and the larger community. Charlie, anything to finish off here? Can I do
a little, I don't know how to call it, digression. I'm going to just have a little very short chat in Spanish, okay?
Yes, go ahead.
If you allow me. ¿Cómo está la comunidad argentina en general mirando esto?
Muy entusiasmada. La comunidad rioplatense, diría, no solamente la argentina.
Okay.
Muy entusiasmada. Se está palpitando con
los bombos. Boom, boom, boom.
Hacemos y después del Mundial de Fútbol tenemos que hacer algo semejante, ¿no?
Okay.
No se nos pasa el entusiasmo.
Very good. Okay.
Yep.
Hey, it's been really a pleasure to have you, a privilege also.
Likewise.
And we're looking forward to have you every time you need. And of course, we didn't follow that closely. MLR, of course, me personally, I didn't really care too much. But now, of course, it's going to be one of the top topics. Thank you very much, Mariano.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Mariano. I appreciate it. Again, congratulations for the 50th episode. And thanks so much for the time.
Appreciate it. Best of luck. We look forward to the next announcement coming. Stay tuned on all social media. And maybe here on TFRO. We'll see. Good stuff.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Mariano.
Bye-bye.